The cameras spun as Karoline Leavitt stepped onto the red carpet. No glitter, no designer excess, just a simple navy gown and a steady gaze that cut through the fake laughter and flashbulbs. Heads turned, conversations dropped. Some smiled tight. Smiles. Some whispered behind sequined hands. Journalists angled for better shots. Hollywood knew its own, and she wasn't one of them. Yet here she was, walking straight into the lion's den with nothing but her name and her nerve. From across the carpet, Ashton Kutcher caught sight of her. His practiced grin twitched, faded. His eyes narrowed. A flash of something colder ran across his face before he stuffed it back behind charm. Whispers crackled through the crowd. Cameras hovered like vultures scenting blood. A low hum built something unsaid but electric. Karoline barely flinched. She wasn't here to be liked. She wasn't here to play along. She was here to speak about service, about honesty, about rebuilding a country too many in this room had forgotten. Ashton shifted, jaw tight. The gala. Lights gleamed too bright, too sharp. The night wasn't even underway, but everyone felt it coming. A storm was brewing under the chandeliers, and no one, especially Ashton, would leave untouched. The ballroom shimmered under gold lights. Packed. Wall to wall with Hollywood royalty. Directors, models, influencers, all clinking glasses, swapping air kisses, pretending they didn't see Karoline tucked near the back. She sat straight, alone at her table, ignoring the sideways glances. The chairs around her stayed suspiciously. Empty, her simple navy gown looked almost defiant against the sea of jewel tones and designer flashes. On stage, the MC leaned into his mic, grinning wide. "We've got all the legends in the house tonight." Laughter rippled. And some, surprise guests too. "Hey, who let the politicians crash the party?" More laughter. Heads turned. Karoline didn't move. The MC chuckled, waved it off, launched into safer jokes about box office bombs and diet fads. The crowd lapped it up, leaning back. Wine glasses raised high. Then the mood shifted. The mic changed hands. Ashton Kutcher bounded up, loose and grinning, the darling son of sitcoms and social media activism. He tossed out a few cheap jabs at aging actors, flubbed a Kardashian. Name for laughs, easy wins. Then his eyes locked on Karoline. "You know," voice slick with amusement, "it's amazing who gets invited these days. Guess playing the victim is the new VIP pass." Nervous chuckles rippled. A few heads turned. A few phones rose quietly, recording. Ashton smirked wider. "Maybe we should start a new charity tonight, save the poor politicians." A louder laugh. This time, Karoline stayed still. Her hands rested neatly on the tablecloth. Her eyes didn't waver. Ashton strutted a few steps across the stage, milking the attention. "In Hollywood, we earn it. Out there," he shrugged. "Cry loud enough, and boom, you're a national treasure." The room shifted. Uneasy, thrilled, like a crowd daring itself to watch a car crash. Karoline lifted her water glass, took a slow sip, set it down without a sound. Screens lit up around the room. Clips of Ashton's jokes were already hitting Twitter, TikTok, headlines forming before the words had even finished leaving his mouth. Ashton roasts DC darling. Karoline Leavitt, snowflake meltdown, incoming. Eyes flickered. Between the stage and Karoline's table, waiting, wanting, would she lash out? Cry? Walk out? Karoline blinked once, slow and steady. Ashton leaned into the mic, delivering the final twist with a faux pity smile. "Out here, it's about talent, hard work. Not just, crying on cable news about how unfair life is." The room laughed harder this time. Meaner. Cameras zoomed in. Screenshots captured every angle. Karoline sat motionless, carved out of steel. The ballroom buzzed with anticipation. The sharks smelled blood. Phones lifted higher. Tweets launched faster. One tweet shot to the top. Karoline Leavitt about to get humiliated live, and it's delicious. Another piled on. Somebody get this woman a tissue, or a one-way flight back to irrelevance. The air in the room pressed down, heavy and electric. Every fake smile, every champagne glass, every flashing camera all pointed at her, daring her to crumble. Karoline's fingers tapped once against the table. A slow, deliberate beat. She stood. The room inhaled sharply. Ashton's smirk twitched just slightly. The storm he thought he started? It was about to drown him. The heels of her shoes struck the marble floor crisp, deliberate, unafraid. Every head turned. Conversations froze. Phones tilted, capturing her slow approach toward the stage. Karoline didn't flinch, didn't falter. Her face was pure, calm rage, a kind of power no speechwriter could script. Ashton saw her coming, his smirk dimmed, handsome face tightening slightly. He stepped back, the mic dangling from his fingers, a king who realized too late the peasants had breached the castle gates. Karoline didn't ask. She took the mic from his hand like it belonged to her. The room held its breath. She turned toward the sea of smugness and silicone and whispered dreams. "You know," she began, voice low, cutting through the hum of fear and fascination. "I wasn't planning to speak tonight." Laughter tried to bubble. "Up!" She crushed it with a glance. "But since I'm already the punchline," Karoline said, her mouth curving into a deadly smile, "might as well give you something real to laugh at." Pause. Let them squirm. Let the cameras zoom. Ashton thinks. "Standing here," she said, waving lazily at the chandeliers and the artfully bored faces, "means you earned something." Eyes narrowed, hands gripped glasses tighter. "But let's be honest. Half the people in this room are famous because they got naked on camera. The other, half are famous for pretending they didn't." A low, stunned ripple. Karoline leaned forward like sharing a secret. "And you think I'm the embarrassment?" Ashton shifted uncomfortably, his easy, breezy armor cracking. Karoline straightened, her voice sharpened, rising over the ballroom. "You think this town is about merit? About talent?" She laughed, a single sharp note that made the chandeliers seem to tremble. "Please, Hollywood is a vending machine. Insert clout, press E for hero. Doesn't matter if it's real, just matters if it trends." Phones buzzed, texts shot off. "Holy shit, she's killing him." Karoline just ended Hollywood in 3 sentences. Ashton opened his mouth, maybe to joke, maybe to crawl, but Karoline steamrolled on. "Actors lecturing Americans about hard work is like Kardashians giving marriage advice. It's cute until you remember they think they're serious." The room shifted, some faces cracking into stifled grins, some hardening with furious shock. Karoline let the silence stretch until it hurt. "You call me a victim?" she said, turning her head slightly, addressing Ashton directly now. "I fought for everything I have. I didn't get cast in a sitcom because I was hot and dumb enough to be relatable to teenagers." The audience gasped. Full-on gasped. A studio executive near the front dropped his glass. It shattered against the floor. No one noticed. Karoline's voice lowered to a knife edge. "I didn't play a fighter on TV. I became one in real life." 1 heartbeat. 2. The room spun around her. Karoline stepped closer to Ashton, so close he had to lean back slightly, his $1,000,000 smile frozen into a grimace. "You?" she said, so quietly that the mic barely caught it. "You're just an actor who started believing his own PR." Ashton's face went pale under the hot stage. "Lights," Karoline pulled back, surveying the silent, stunned crowd. "And the saddest part?" she said, voice dripping with finality. "You think you're brave for mocking me, but everyone here knows the truth." She turned slowly, eyes sweeping the glittering faces. "You're not brave, you're safe." Beat. And safe is boring. She dropped the mic. The crack of it hitting the stage echoed like a gunshot. For a moment, the world didn't move. Then the explosion hit. The room broke into chaos, whispers, gasps, furious tapping on phones. People shifted in their chairs, unsure whether to flee, film, or find someone more famous to stand behind. Ashton stood frozen, micless, dethroned. Under the brutal white lights, his mouth opened and closed uselessly, like a man thrown overboard who hadn't yet decided whether to swim or sink. Karoline didn't wait to see which he'd choose. She turned calm, poised, and walked off the stage. And this time, every camera in the room followed her like she was gravity itself. The organizers scrambled. One of the hosts, a B-list actor, desperately clinging to relevance, rushed the stage to smooth things over, mumbling something about good-natured fun and respectful dialogue. No one listened. The story was already written. The videos were already slicing across every platform, every account, every inbox. Within minutes, the hashtags bloomed. Karoline, unfiltered. Hollywood humiliation. Mic drop. Of the decade. The real show wasn't the speech anymore, it was the reaction. Half of Hollywood recoiled in horror, clutching their pearls over decorum and civility. The other half? Silently cheering her on from behind locked Twitter accounts and burner phones, Karoline reached the back of the ballroom, brushing past waiters and publicists who stumbled to get out of her way. She didn't glance back once. Behind her, the stage collapsed into a mess of fake laughter and even faker apologies. Ashton was ushered off by his agent, who hissed into his ear with the desperation of a man watching a career hemorrhage in real time. Outside, the cool night air hit her like a reward. She paused on the sidewalk, the buzz of the city wrapping around her. A black car pulled up, a discreet signal from her team, who had been watching everything unfold from a distance, knowing they couldn't interfere even if they wanted to. Karoline slipped inside. The door shut with a satisfying thunk, like a chapter slamming closed. Inside the car, her campaign manager, a sharp-eyed woman named Riley, handed her a phone without a word. The screen was already lit up. Texts, emails, DMs, notifications pouring in faster than anyone could read. One text blinked from the top of the pile. It was from a producer at a major news network. Any chance you'll do a live interview tonight? Audience numbers would be nuclear. Another from a congressman. Holy hell, that was art. Call me tomorrow. Even a grudging, one-word message from a prominent Hollywood director. Respect? Karoline allowed herself the smallest smile. Just a flicker. Riley leaned forward. You realize, she said, almost whispering, you didn't just survive that. You rewrote it. Karoline tucked the phone into her bag, leaned her head back against the seat. I wasn't trying to survive, she said, voice soft but certain. I was trying to remind them who they're dealing with. The car slid into traffic, merging with the glittering chaos of Los Angeles. Back at the ballroom, Ashton's PR team fought a losing battle trying to spin the disaster. But the clips of Karoline, fierce, unbothered, incandescent, kept multiplying. Unstoppable, uncancelable. Somewhere deep inside the machine of Hollywood, a shift began. Small at first, barely a tremor, but real, a warning. The old rules had cracked, and Karoline Leavitt had just thrown the first stone through the stained glass windows of American celebrity culture and dared the world to stop her. The next morning, the city woke up drunk on drama. Every major network had cleared its schedule. Social media feeds throbbed with one command. Watch live. The headline screamed across every platform. Ashton Lane responds. Press conference 10 a.m. Psi. It wasn't a press conference. It was an ambulance trying to outrun a funeral procession. Outside the sleek Beverly Hills hotel, the crowd swarmed reporters elbowing influencers, fans shoving against velvet ropes, security barking into radios. Inside, Ashton Lane stood behind a podium, dressed down in a soft hoodie and jeans, trying to look like an innocent man just caught up in the moment. He flashed a dazzling smile, the kind that had once sold movie tickets by the millions. Hey, everybody, he said with a forced chuckle. Let's all take a breath, right? Last night was a party. Parties get crazy sometimes. The cameras clicked mechanically. The reporters stared, stone-faced. Ashton plowed ahead, clinging to the wreckage. I just want to say there was never any malice, no bad intentions. It was all in good fun. You know how it is, roast a little, laugh a little. Behind him, the PR team looked like they were bracing for impact. But the impact wasn't coming from them. It was coming through the side door. Cool and controlled. Karoline Leavitt. She didn't announce herself. She didn't need to. The air shifted when she entered the way it does right before a lightning strike. In a crisp black blazer, hair pulled back into a sleek ponytail, she looked like every nightmare the Hollywood machine had tried to forget. A woman who wasn't. Scared, bought, or apologetic, Ashton blinked when he saw her. For half a second, the mask slipped. Karoline approached the secondary podium, positioned just feet away from the organizer's idea of balanced representation. She didn't look at Ashton. She looked straight into the cameras. Good morning, she said, her voice steady, razor-edged. I know many of you have questions. I'll be brief. The room, already tense, pulled tighter. A wire stretched to snapping. Karoline glanced down at the neat stack of papers she carried. Headlines, quotes, receipts. Then, looking back up, she dropped the first bomb. Ashton Lane. Claims last night was just jokes. Let's lighten the burden of truth, shall we? The first screen behind her lit up, footage of the gala. Ashton mocking, sneering, laughing. But not just that. Clips from old interviews, red carpet moments, past awards shows, moments where Ashton could have spoken up and didn't, moments where he laughed along with the mob instead. Each flashback sharpened the blade Karoline was wielding. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Mockery, she said calmly, is the oldest refuge of those too afraid to take a stand. It costs nothing, it risks nothing, and it changes nothing. The reporters, trained to pounce, stayed frozen. Nobody dared interrupt. The second screen changed, now showing tabloid headlines Ashton had once fueled. Stories he had winked at when it suited him. Karoline lifted her eyes, pinning the room in place. You mock because you never stood, she said, voice cutting clean through the last scraps of pretense. You belittle because you never built. Dead. Silence. Even the PR team stopped breathing. Ashton shifted his weight, mouth opening, but no words came out. Just a mumbled, half-formed excuse that collapsed under its own cowardice. He retreated a step from the podium. Another. Then another. The cameras didn't follow him. They stayed on Karoline, on the woman who had walked into the heart of the Hollywood machine and made it look small. The instant Ashton stumbled off stage, it was like the oxygen got sucked out of the room. No one clapped, no one cheered. Even the reporters, vultures by profession, stayed frozen, unsure if they were witnessing the end of a gala or the end of an era. The cameras, those faithful beasts, didn't chase the fallen star. They pivoted, all of them, as if drawn by gravity, locked onto Karoline. She stood there, head high, not smiling, not smirking, just radiating a fierce, unshakable calm. Someone whispered into a hot mic. It wasn't meant to be broadcast, but it slipped out. We're going to be talking about this night for the next 20 years. Within minutes, the images flooded the world. On every TV screen, every phone, every billboard in Times Square. Karoline, a lone sentinel under the brutal stage lights. Ashton's hunched back, disappearing behind the velvet curtains. Reporters, turning, confused, like a school of fish sensing a new predator. Social media ignited like someone had thrown a match onto a field of dry grass. Karoline Ashton, exposed, was trending within 4 minutes. Karoline, unbreakable, followed. Real, hero overtook them. All. The TikToks came first, 15-second clips of Karoline's calm, deadly monologue. Then the YouTube breakdowns, commentary channels posting what really happened at the gala within the hour. Then the think pieces, opinion writers racing to declare. The moment a turning point in Hollywood's culture of fake virtue. One post went viral above the rest. Tonight we saw the death of performative activism and the birth of real courage. Her name is Karoline Leavitt. Within an hour, Ashton's fan pages were locked down, comments disabled. Within 2, rumors swirled that his sponsors were re-evaluating contracts. By morning, his agent issued a weak statement. Ashton deeply regrets any misunderstanding that may have arisen. Nobody cared. The tide had turned. Meanwhile, Karoline didn't bask in the glow. She didn't do a media tour. She didn't run victory laps on talk shows. Instead, she quietly walked through the flashing cameras, a single assistant trailing behind her. She offered no sound bites, no grand gestures, just a polite nod, a thank you to the staff. In her hotel room that night, the world roared on without her. TV anchors dissected her speech. Former allies of Ashton deleted old selfies and tweets. Podcasters rushed to book Karoline Leavitt experts they'd never heard of before. She ordered a black coffee and sat by the window, watching the city pulse with life beneath her. No Instagram posts, no champagne, no revenge fantasy fulfilled. Because for her, this wasn't about petty triumphs. It wasn't even about Ashton. It was about the truth. And when the world lies to your face long enough, sometimes the truth delivered plain and unflinching is the most revolutionary act of all. For the next 48 hours, you couldn't escape it. The clip of Karoline standing alone at the gala, dropping quiet bombs of truth while Ashton stumbled off stage. played on an endless loop across every news network in America. CNN replayed it every 30 minutes, with a chyron that simply read, "The moment that shook Hollywood," Fox News called it. Finally, a real hero, not a manufactured one. Even the more entertainment-obsessed channels, the ones that usually treated celebrity drama like royal news, couldn't look away. News gasped about the biggest implosion since the Oscar slap. Entertainment Tonight ran a 5-part special just titled The Fall of Ashton Kutcher. It was total, absolute, cultural dominance. And while the public swung hard, almost gleefully, against Ashton, what surprised everyone was Hollywood itself. Actors, producers, studio heads, who had previously rushed to post about standing with Ashton, went weirdly quiet. Some issued vague statements about learning and growing. Some deleted their old supportive posts entirely, and just a few, had the courage to admit it bluntly. Yeah, he crossed a line. Mocking real sacrifice isn't activism, it's just cruelty, one veteran director tweeted. For once, the public got it right faster than we did. Respect to Karoline Leavitt. And while all this unfolded, the outrage, the memes, the fallout, Karoline stayed silent. No TV interviews, no late-night appearances, no viral victory dances. For 3 days, people waited, refreshing her feeds, wondering when she would speak. Some begged her to capitalize on the moment. Strike while the iron's hot. Others warned she might be forgotten if she waited too long. But Karoline didn't move according to their clocks. She wasn't here for the fame. When she finally posted something, it wasn't a clapback. It wasn't a rant. It wasn't even about Ashton. It was a simple 57-second video. No makeup artist, no fancy lighting, just Karoline in a simple blue blazer, sitting at a desk, hands folded neatly in front of her. She said, "The people who serve others, teachers, soldiers, doctors, volunteers, they do it without hashtags or headlines. They do it because they believe in something bigger than themselves." She paused. Her eyes stayed steady, unblinking. "Tonight, let's honor them. Let's lighten their burden, even if just a little, by living with more courage ourselves." No mention of Ashton, no mention of the gala, no mention of herself. And somehow, it was more devastating than any attack could have been. The video racked up millions of views within hours. Commentators called it a masterclass in dignity. Veterans groups, non-profits, and everyday citizens reposted it with the hashtag "I honor over hype." And then just like that, Karoline disappeared again. No victory lap, no brand endorsements, no Netflix documentary. She boarded a commercial flight, not a private jet, and left the city behind. No entourage, no fanfare. Just a woman with a duffel bag slung over her shoulder, walking through the airport terminal, head high, face calm. Some photographers tried to swarm her at the gate. She nodded once, politely, but didn't stop for pictures. She didn't need the cameras anymore. She never did. The world watched her go, and for once, it didn't feel like they were consuming a product. It felt like they were witnessing something real, something rare. A person who had been tested and who had chosen integrity over applause. Respect wasn't claimed. It wasn't demanded. It was earned. And the world, so hungry for something true, gave it to her freely. The city lights blurred past as Karoline sat in the back seat, the hum of the car almost rhythmic, almost calming. It felt strange to her now, the speed, the constant movement, the noise. But for the first time in ages, she didn't feel the pressure to keep up. As she stared out the window, her mind drifted, not to the battles she had fought, but to the choices that lay ahead, living for applause versus living for purpose. It was so easy to get lost in the chase for recognition, to think that every victory needed a stage, every win required a cheering crowd. Ashton's fall, that dramatic spectacle, was proof of how quickly the world moved, how fleeting those moments of public victory could be. But Karoline wasn't chasing a spotlight. She never had been. Her phone buzzed on the seat beside her. A reporter text, "Karoline, can we get your thoughts on the fallout? People want to hear from you." She stared at it for a moment. She could feel the temptation to speak, to have the final word. But then she simply typed her reply. "Not necessary." She set the phone aside, her fingers still hovering over the keys. For a moment, as if she could somehow still grasp that need for validation. But it was gone now. The car pulled up to an empty street corner, and as the engine turned off, Karoline smiled. A small, almost secretive smile. The battles weren't over. They never were. The world would always move on. But she was ready. Ready for more. Ready for what was next. And she knew, as the night wrapped around her like a quiet promise, that she'd be just fine.